Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to finish up this week's theme of Lush Productions and check out a person, called XTC. The song is River of Orchids. We're going to dive into this one and see what's going on. Yeah, this one's real interesting, and I love the spatialness of everything that's going on right now. Some really nice volume dynamics as well. It also seems like they're playing around with the velocity of each of the attacks. Yeah, so that trumpet line right there is a really good hocket. Really interesting effects on the vocals as well. And it's cool, we have that center, and then we have two backing vocals as well on the sides. So clean too. Like, there's a lot of layers and most of it is syncopated, but it never really gets muddied at all. Almost sounds like a Harmon muted trumpet.
I had a dream where the car is reduced to a fossil. I had a dream where the car is reduced to a fossil. Take a packet of seeds, take yourself out to play. I wanna see you kiss where we had a motor away. It's all in your
Yeah, that counterpoint going on there is just gorgeous. Some really fun, playful, rhythmic ideas. created from all of the syncopation throughout here. All right. Pretty sure that was the end of the track. Yeah, that's interesting. It was fun. And I think to me, that's the major part right there, is that it's a very fun track. It has a lot of playfulness in not only the tones that they're selecting for each of these individual hits, but also the way that they're being used rhythmically, right? A lot of the tones are sort of higher treble based instruments or timbres or notes. We don't really hear too much in the lower end. A lot of it is creating these syncopated rhythms in a bit of the higher end notes. The vocals, the trumpet, the synths, the raindrop effect, all of it kind of sits above that middle ground of not necessarily treble versus bass, but higher notes versus lower notes. And it just creates this fun, upbeat, kind of playful kind of element to it. Not just in the area that most of the notes are sitting in, which tend to be a bit brighter and happier, but also, just like I said, the playfulness of the rhythmic elements. It is a song that just kind of makes you want to, groove along with it, kind of bounce along. It is a song that you have to really enjoy that core element, though, because it does not change. It is 6 minutes of the same thing over and over. There are some slight variations. They did bring in the harmon muted trumpets. There's a couple of different vocal lines, but for the most part, it's either this line that's being repeated or this line that's being repeated. I think there's a third and a fourth, and then we just kind of hear different different combinations of these different vocal lines. So like I said, you really have to enjoy what's going on here, because it is the whole song. But I do think, at least for a first time listen, I don't know if I'd come back to this, but I'm walking away from this pleased. Being that this is Lush Productions Week, I do want to dive a little bit into the production aspect. It is phenomenal. Just the way that everything has its space, even from the very beginning. I think having this slow burn of, slowly adding layers. First we get the raindrop, then we get some synth work, then we get the trumpets, then we get the voice. You can hear how each instrument comes in and has a specific placement. The trumpets are always right. The raindrop is always like center right, center left, kind of jumps between those two, but it's pretty close to the center. The vocals, there's three main vocals. We have one centered and then one on either side. And everything it has its place in the mix. And it is just so clean to if I wanted to hone in on any instrument, no matter how complex, how deep some of these sections got, such as that final section, which I think had every single layer that had been introduced up to that point in time, I can still hone in on anything that I want. Any instrument, the raindrop, I could still precisely hear where it was in the mix. That is just, that is phenomenal. It I talked about this yesterday with Igloo Ghost because once again, just really strong digital production. But it's wizardry to me. It really is. I can write music on paper. That part's no big deal. But actually getting it to sound interesting with mixing and mastering is just, it's beyond me. I don't understand it. I'm working towards it. I am. I'm making a lot of progress in the past couple of months, but it is just a skill that I don't quite have. And to hear somebody do this and place voices within the mix in precise places that just work so perfectly, it's just mind blowing. It almost feels like they're physical objects that are placed in a physical space. Like you go here and you go here and you go here. Um, and then you have to remember that it's done with inside of a an audio workstation with plugins, and it's not just hand placed. Uh, it's actually had to go through software and create the placement. And man, it blows my mind. It really does. Production is phenomenal, and I do think it kind of gets overlooked a lot. Uh, we tend to talk about the bands or the pop artists or the rappers. We don't tend to talk too much about the producers, the mixers, the masters, the engineers. They do a lot of work into creating specific sounds. Now I don't know, maybe this XTC is a single person and they are their own engineer as well as their own composer. That's very possible. I kind of assume a lot of electronic artists do both. They make the music and then they also engineer it. But regardless, it's still something I don't think a lot of people think about. But it does the engineer does so much in defining a sonic identity, and ensuring that songs come together. And this is definitely a song that in lesser experienced hands would have fallen apart, especially in that final section where I mentioned we had everything. We had every instrument up to the point. I think we even had all the vocal lines, at least two or three of them, I think, all converging onto one point, and it could have become a cluttered wall of sound. And it didn't. It still walked away being fairly cohesive, fairly clean. There's only so much you can do to isolate instruments when you have so many things going on, but still found a way to do it. Like I said, even there at the end, I could hone in on an instrument and specifically check out what they're doing, and that just blows my mind. Now, musically, there is a lot of rhythmic syncopation going on in here. The entire opening, which creates the percussive element of the song, utilizes four different voices to create a rhythmic pattern, a rhythmic passage that underlines the entire track. We got the raindrop, we got some synth work, even the trumpets contribute a little bit to the rhythmic aspect, and even the vocals I mentioned. One of the vocal ones was engaging in like an eighth note run, and it provides a bit of a staccato pattern to this syncopation that's going on. It's kind of wild how I don't think there's a single traditionally percussive instrument, but we do have a very strong sense of rhythm in this song. They, he, they, it, whoever XTC is, they have a fantastic mind for using non-percussive instruments in percussive ways. It reminds me of the opposite of. Oh man, I'm gonna be a little bit upset about this. Stuart Copeland. I think that's his last. Yep, Stuart Copeland. who is a percussionist and found ways to create melodic elements out of percussive instruments. Um, this is like the opposite of that, where we're hearing very percussive. Actually, no. Stuart Copeland did also write very percussive, rhythmic sections for traditionally melodic instruments. Yeah, yeah, that's how that was. So no, actually, XTC reminds me of Stuart Copeland's writing. Um, so yeah, that's always really cool when you see an instrument being utilized in a way that it typically is not. That always fascinates me because there's no such thing as a percussive instrument. Or there's no such thing as a rhythmic instrument. It might be rhythmically oriented, it might traditionally be used rhythmically, but that doesn't mean it is exclusively used rhythmically. But a lot of the ways that we write for instruments fall into ways of tradition, how we're used to hearing them. So I absolutely love people who get outside the box and say, we can write a percussive drum part. We can keep the rhythm of song without any traditionally rhythmic instruments. We can stick with using synthesizers and vocals and trumpets and whatever else, raindrop sounds, and still have a strong idea of groove and rhythm underneath all this. We just have to think about those instruments rhythmically, and that's how you end up with really cool syncopated ideas like we get here. I also want to mention Hawkins. Yes, this song is full of them. A lot of them are rhythmic hockets. Hocket is when multiple instruments uh, basically pass an idea between them so that one instrument doesn't play the whole thing. And that's exactly what happens here with the rhythmic aspect, is that we get the raindrop sound on like beats 1 and 4 or whatever, 1 and 3. I don't remember. And then on like the end of 2, we'll get like a synth stinger, and then the trumpets will play on like 3 and 1 or something. And basically, when it all comes together, though, you have this really nice, both rhythmic and melodic line, a little passage. And if you hum it all by yourself, you can hear the melody out of it, but it's being passed around between all these instruments. They're taking turns playing a note or two out of the passage, and that's what a hocket is. And this is just done on an extreme level where it's passed around between 4 or 5 instruments, sometimes more, and doing it not just melodically, passing around a melody, but also rhythmically. The melody and rhythms are being utilized from all these instruments to create both the groove and the melody structure. And it is just, yeah, that's just another level. And then to put counterpoint on top of that using multiple vocal lines, yeah, this song is just, there's a lot of really cool stuff going on in here. But like I said earlier, my big thing is that the song is very one note. It has one section, and it does find different ways to mix up the combinations of ideas going on, and that does change up a few of the ideas in it, but for the most part, it's 6 minutes of a very similar concept from start to finish. So, like I said, you really have to enjoy that, and I don't quite think it is my cup of tea personally, but I have so much appreciation and admiration for the compositional skills that went into creating this, and having it just done at such a phenomenal level of introducing ideas like Hawkins and counterpoint, and just being extremely playful. It is a fun track, and I'm glad I've heard it. And I think that's going to end his rather short analysis, but the song is one section, so it's not like I can really dive into a lot of it. I think I did a pretty good job of breaking down that one section, and like I said, it is a phenomenal section on the underlying elements. So this is where you guys come in. That is XTC's River of Orchids. What did you guys think? Hit me up in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed this one or not. Let me know if you heard anything that maybe I didn't. I'm always all ears to learn. When you're done commenting, you can head up to the description box, and there's a link for Linktree. It'll take you to this menu right here. It has links for everything related to the channel, whether you want to join any of my social medias follow me on social medias, join other aspects of the community, such as the Discord, or help support the channel through merch, Patreon, or special selections. When you're done with that, if you could, right above, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC. We also have a creator request coming up in about 10 minutes. We're going to be looking at a band who's contacted me. They're usually smaller bands, trying to get a little bit of promotion. And of course, I'll provide my signature feedback and criticism as well. All right, until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.